Welcome to our class. Economics is the class, and we are taking labor market part 2. In our previous class, we took labor market part 1. We explained what a labor market is. Then we explained what labor is. We added the market to it, and we brought it together, and we saw labor market. Today we have two objectives for the class. What are the objectives for this class? 1, wages and wages determination, and then government in wage determination. We're going to look at these two objectives at the end of this class. Now, let's see what is wages. Wages is the payment made to labor for the services they render in production. That is, reward paid for service. Wages is reward paid for service or for services. So when we look at wages, it has to do with payment made to labor. Remember that labor is human effort put into production process, or human effort put into bringing in services. So when we talk about wages, it has to be that payment made to the individual who have put in the work to bring about production or to bring about a service. The payment in monetary form that is paid to an individual who have carried out a particular activity in order to bring production to to those who need it, or to bring services to those who need such services. That is wages. And so, since we've known what is wages, what is that determines the amount of money that wage is paid? Wage determination. It has to be the listing of wage rates and benefit rate for each classification of labor and the mechanics or mechanism that is involved. That is to say that what is that determines the amount of money an individual in a particular job is paid. What is that money that is paid to that person that puts his human effort to bring about production? A lot of factors determines wage. These are the factors we are going to look at. Now, let's look at a number of factors which I have here, about 9 or so. There are many. So let me discuss the one I have here. You can go read up other determinants. Number 1 is the force of demand and supply. If labor is in a sector that demand is very high, there's every possibility that demand for that labor is going to be high. And once the demand for that labor is going to be high, wages might be high. And when scarcity comes in, those who are in that labor area is scarce. That means those who are going to be in that area, you want to demand for more payments. Labor. So labor will charge high if demand of a particular product and the demand of a particular product is high, and those who are in that area is scarce. The few persons that will be found here, there will be paid higher amounts. The if supply to the market is high, that's to say the demand for that product is high. People who need that product is high. The supply to the market is at a high volume. Supply become lower than demand. You know that there is need for people to go into that area and produce more, and so they will pay high because they want people to spend more hours, bring in more expatriates to that area. So forces of demand and supply determines wages. Government policies. This applies mostly to the public sector. Government determines wages. That's why we have minimum wages, living wage. So government determines the policy in which they are going to pay. There are some policy that tells you that a job needs to be, that they need to pay extra for such job. For example, in the medical field, people are paid for overtime, or people are paid for call allowances because they are called at any time, even at midnight, to come to do their job. So the policy here may be that such individuals should have incentive to their salary. So you don't expect such person to receive the same amount. With that person who close by 5 go to his house is not called to do any other activity. Government policy. Government determine how much, what policy is required, and how much is to be paid to workers. Then level of productivity. There are people that are highly productive. In some of our offices, government offices, they are dormant. They just go there, sign, sit down. But there are places, there are some sectors that is very active. Like for example, in educational sector, a lot of teachers are going extra mile to teach. They put in the work. Nurses, medical field, they go there, they put in the work. Those who produce goods and services, they go there, they want to bring their products for consumers. So there are people who work more than others. Level of productivity can determine whether labor is going to go up or go high. So when you are highly productive, your wage is supposed to be high. And when you are dormant in your office, you don't expect to receive high because you gain nothing. Alright. Now we go to the next one, cost of living. If people living in a particular area have high cost of living, that's to say their standard of living is very okay, labor will be at its minimal because will be at its optimal because people want to maintain a standard of living, and what they receive is what makes them live comfortably or not. So living condition can determine wage. Alright, types of occupation. There are occupations, like I have explained earlier, there are some occupations that require that you pay higher. You cannot tell me that a marine engineer that is going to go down the ocean should be paid with that person who just sit down in the office and do little or nothing. Or a pipeline engineer that is in the field working day and night to make sure that these pipelines are laid and they are well welded. They're going to be paid the same with somebody who go to the office, do little or nothing, not especially in our public offices. Or a doctor that goes to work, or health workers that goes to work and work from when they resume work to when they will close without getting any rest, will receive the same amount with that person who is dormant in the office. So, types of occupation, the occupation you go in. Alright, we'll go to the next one, activities of trade union. You have active trade union, like we have in NUPENG, you have in some other Nigerian Bar Association, Medical Association, Nigerian Union of Teachers. A lot of trade union association agitate for what they want for working condition for their members, and so they cut the cords. They tell you what and what they needed in their occupation. Like in the medical association, they tell you what doctors need. They tell you what they have to be paid. Association of Nurses and Midwives, they tell you what is their work condition. So this trade union champion what they want. They don't fight as individuals, they fight as a group. And so this trade union stipulates what wage they are to be paid, determinants. Level of risk associated with a job. You go to a manufacturing sector that you have to be careful the way you use a machine, or you might get hurt. There are some machines you operate with. If you are not careful, if you lose focus, your hands or your arms might be cut off. Those are highly hazardous jobs. And then you look at those in the medical field that are exposed to a lot of health challenges because they are exposed to those who have such health challenges. You are supposed to pay them health hazard. They may be exposed to these health issues and die as a result of it. Meet accident as a result of it, depending on the occupation. Alright? And then we'll talk about entry qualification. Some jobs require more years to be trained, like we have in law, like we have in engineering, like we have in nursing, and some other fields that require long years of service, long years of training. You will agree with me that those who have long time of training may have a problem or may need to be paid better than those who have short period. Imagine you an individual have spent 7, 8, 9 years in training, and you that when they spend 1 year or 2 years, you don't expect to receive the same wage with that person. Prestige associated with a job. There are jobs that people just believe if you go there you are made. like in medicine, like in law, like in engineering, they hide these rates, these jobs, they rate it highly. That those who get in there because they are scarce or because it's a prestigious job, they want to tell you how much you are going to pay them. They demand high wage. So these are what determines wage: the process of demand and supply, government policy, level of productivity, cost of living, types of occupation, activities of trade union, level of risk associated with a job, qualification, entry qualification, and then prestige associated with a job. Now that's the first objective met. Second objective is government in wage determination. What is it that make government to determine wage? Next objective. Let's look at the second objective, which is government in determining wage. We're going to use 3 areas to see how government determines wage. One is cost of living. If the cost of living in a country is very high and workers find it difficult to meet their needs, government can come and intervene and increase wage in order for them to meet with the living condition of the country. So government can intervene by increasing wages. The other way around, they can decrease it if the need be. But more, in this economic situation we find ourselves, government should determine to increase wage. Level of productivity. A country that produces more, a productive country, not this consumable country that sometimes we see ourselves in. If a country is highly productive, you bring in product, you produce goods and services, and you export, you are high in demand country, people are looking for your product and your services, a lot of revenue is coming as a result of that, government can decide to increase wage because productivity is high. Productivity is at its optimum. And then lastly, types of occupation. In the country, we have those who enter occupation that are in high demand, occupation that brings in high productivity, an occupation that make the standard of living of the people high and brings more revenue to the country. That will make the government to determine how to increase wages. So we have seen the determinants of wages on the part of government: the cost of living, the level of productivity, and the types of occupation that are in there. Then that means we've met the second objective. So in our class for today, we've been able to see the 2 objectives. If you've not watched Labor Market Part 1, please go back and watch it. We're going to have Part 3 to Labor Market. So follow along, go and watch Part 1. This is Part 2. Wait and meet Part 3. So we've seen wages and wages determination. We've seen government in wage determination. Come along next when we take the next part of labor market. It's my pleasure being here. Subscribe if you've not subscribed. If you're a returning subscriber, thumbs up to you. Thank you very much for being here. If you have any question, please go below the comment box and ask your question. If you have any suggestion, we are open to suggestion. Please suggest below the comment box. Is that a monologue class? Is a dialogue between you and I? Let's go down the comment section and dialogue. I'll see you in another episode of our class.